All right.
Now.
Well, so Mark, I think I'm going to help you moderate here.
Yes.
This is Jim Fuchs.
I hope help means you're going to take care of it.
Sounds good. That works. So let me just offer my thanks to Mark and Janet, and of course to our three presenters. Again, a reminder for everybody here in the facility, if you have a question, please make sure you turn on your microphone so everyone here can hear you, and also our virtual audience. And for our virtual audience, please, you can raise your hand, and then we will do our best to unmute you, and you can ask a live question, or within the chat, you can type in your question, and our virtual MC, Meredith Covington, will call on you. So I see we have a question here from Alan, and then I'll go here next, and then we'll look to the virtual room. So Alan, why don't you start?
Yeah, thanks very much. I really appreciate it. This is a really great session to get us going here. I really like it. And, you all do such great jobs, and we're going to have to give you a job maybe. I'm not sure. So you discussed it, excellent jobs, giving you, advice on how to deal with the issues. So I'm going to go a completely different direction, show you some like bigger ideas that maybe for future research or for improvement rather than the operational things. So first of all, Mark, I got an idea for you. It's better to be away from a hurricane than in a hurricane. So why aren't you here instead of it? I don't get that. I don't get that. Staying in a hurricane. I don't get that at all. There's something wrong with it.
The issue is getting home, Alan.
Stay here. Don't wait till the hurricane's over. You come to my house. It's okay. Okay. So for Amanda's paper, I already gave her some comments a couple of weeks ago at the FDIC conference. So I'll skip that entirely. I thought it was something else to be very interesting. So one topic that I'm lucky enough, I have a PhD student who's a competitor of Daniel's on the job market named Jerry Gual, who was one of the honored students here a couple of years ago. He's actually doing his paper on the origin of banking relationships. What a great idea. And his idea is, he's doing supply chain relationships in industry. Do they spawn, bank borrower relationships, and are those relationships, favorable? Great idea. Amanda, how about these borrower relationships with the bank? I'm borrowing $10 million for my house. I hire a construction firm. Does that construction firm then start a relationship with the bank? Or maybe the construction firm has a relationship with the bank. Do they bring in a customer that also gets a loan from the bank? So here's some new papers for you. So maybe be nice to me and you let me be a co-author on it. Maybe not. You don't have to. If you can do it. So Greg, a great idea. I love the adverse selection. So I have two ideas for you, and they're both kind of already grounded in the literature. So a little criticism is, you gotta check that literature. You be very careful with it. I have the advantage. I've been around since before all this literature started, so I have a little advantage. So adverse selection, great thinking. So adverse selection, yeah. So we see, okay, if somebody's coming to me, hey, maybe somebody else rejected them. Well, there is kind of a literature on a solution to that. It's called credit registries, and we have that in other countries. Public credit registries. Here we kind of only have a couple of things, but it's more in other countries. So there is this literature on that. I don't really know what the answer is, so I don't actually read anything. So, but basically check that out and see if those registries do it, and maybe there's some kind of international comparison. Countries with credit registries, countries without credit registries. I don't really know. And then there's this other, even more gigantic literature about competition and risk. And it's called competition fragility versus competition stability. And the papers on both sides. There's one, Boyd DeNicolo in Journal of Finance 2005. Sounds like you know what that is. Says, we're going to, about a certain way, competition is going to keep the loan interest rates low. So, so there's less adverse selection problems and also less moral hazard problems. So I didn't hear you talk about that. So you need to include both of those. And then there's this theory on the other side, which, competition's fragility. We stop protecting the franchise value of our bank if we have too much competition and we go the other way. So just try and put it in the bigger context, and maybe there's something to differentiate the moral hazard from the adverse selection. there are a lot of potential ideas out there. So this paper I'm working on, which I said, yeah, I'm going to share with you. If you want, I'm going to try and send it off today or tomorrow for preliminary comments. So if you send me an email, I'll include you on that list, but you have to like not give it to anybody else or anything, or you can't steal anything out of it. But all those literature, the literature's
I'm an honest
already.
guy. I would never.
Are-
Thank you.
so,
Thank you.
I
Thank you
can't
for-
do anything if you steal from that.
Don't sell it on eBay. Yeah.
And then,
Thank you so much.
okay, for Daniel, really good idea, this PPP and relationships. That's really good, but I think actually, I'm gonna suggest you don't have the right story. You know, it's good to have these relationships and everything, but I don't think it's about information. And the reason is, who needs information when Uncle Sam is taking all the credit risk for us? Who cares? I don't care about that. But it's actually a different relationship, which is actually you should be exploiting, which is that this relationship, normally we make a loan that should increase credit risk. No, it reduces credit risk in PPP because they give it to my relationship customer, and they can use that money to not default on their other loan to me. So it actually goes the opposite way, and something that's not really quite thought about or delved into the literature, I don't think. And so in fact, they're actually bailing out the bank with this PPP loan. So you do need to check the literature. I do have a paper on SSRN for over 2 years on this, so you need to check that, on whose ballot is it anyway? And where did I get the idea for that paper? Is it the banks or the borrowers getting bailed out? Where did I get the idea for that paper? Right here at the community bank conference, where the paper was about the community bank keynote told us about the community banks were doing well from the PPP. I figured it out. That's my paper with Luca Roman and Mustafa Kara Kaplan. So just check that.
All right, thank you. Let me, Daniel, Greg,
Sure.
or Amanda, would you like to respond? I know we have another question in the back, but I just want to give you an opportunity to respond, obviously from Alan, but also from maybe some of the comments you heard from Mark and Janet as well.
Of course. So I appreciate very much Janet's and Mark's comments. To Janet, I totally agree, and you had that conversation earlier. This is the opportunity, as Professor Berger just explained, what he had that chance 2 years ago, I'm having right now, to talk to community bankers and see their massive role in the successful implementation of the Paycheck Protection Program. And to Mark's, the paper, and this is the title, it's a no information asymmetric benefit. So I'm totally agree with the comment saying that this is not driven by information asymmetry. So we're trying to find the right economic channel. Professor Berg, thanks for your comments. It's an honor having your comment on my research. This work that I have, it's in SSRN since 2022, and it has been receiving a lot of comments all over the place. I will look into what you suggested. I absolutely welcome you and well-taken comments, and especially on the work that's being done by our PhD students. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks Janet, Mark, and Alan for the good suggestions. Alan, I'm gonna definitely take a look and email you later. Janet, regarding the origination cost, I completely agree with you. That's kind of one of our key concerns. We control we're looking at like one bank giving 2 loans at the same time, kind of controlling for the loan size, controlling for the differences in the economic conditions in the areas. But I think there's more work to maybe see if we can do more about that. Mark, I'll also thank you for your great comments. I think I may bug you later to hear more about your idea about kind of simulating the noise and the PDs. Table 6, I don't remember exactly what table 6 is. I think it may not have markup as the dependent variable, but don't quote me on that. So there may be a reason why it's flipping, but I'll definitely look and figure out what's going on. And then, yeah, we do cut out the very largest loans. I think we cut out some more, and then also think about MSAs as well. So thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Flannery and Dr. Garfus, for the extremely thoughtful discussions. As they've mentioned, my paper is one of the first papers in really understanding something very fundamental about monitoring. So we're trying to determine what's really interesting to people, because there's so much to explore. So Professor Flannery, I really appreciate your thoughts on what you think is interesting and where we should expand the paper. Dr. Garfus, I appreciate you telling us about how appraisals have changed over time. Something that's nice about this bank, while I cannot tell you what bank it is, I can tell you that it failed during the financial crisis. So it looks like if it's a more recent problem, then we're probably okay. As we've mentioned before, a lot of this stuff is really invisible to researchers, and there's a lot of knowledge within this room. And so I'd love to hear from you, especially if you have data on monitoring for me. Shameless plug. And so there's just a lot to think about here. And so thank you very much for your comments.
Great. Thank you. So Augustine, University of Chicago, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, thank you. Super interesting session. One quick question I have about the first paper is when you're looking into defaults, I don't remember if you're controlling for the interest rate of the loan, but it would be interesting to have some measure of the NPV of the monitoring decision to see, because essentially you're saying, monitoring reduces default, and it seems, it's a good thing, but default is just one part of the net present value of the loan. So it would be interesting to also control for the interest rate, or perhaps just have a measure of the NPV of the decision.
So yes, we do control for the interest rate. We can either include the interest rate or not include the interest rate in the default study, and the results are similar. If we want to look at a continuous outcome, we do have completion percentages. And so we find much the same result, where increased monitoring is more likely to get a project to completion. Thank you.
Let's see, we have a question in the back from Cindy at the board.
Thank you. Actually, a follow-on question to the first paper. I was curious, thinking about more from screening to monitoring to something more like screening. So you talked about kind of rejection of a drawdown, but would there ever be a time where it would actually mend? Like they did enough, so then they'd prove or report enough that the bank was then willing to lend more money? Or was this just kind of an attempt to cut off any further loss? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So both can happen. So when Alan is in the process of building his $10 million home, if he misses a milestone, he can go back and try to amend whatever went wrong, and then have another inspection and have that draw approved and proceed to move along with the project. But as you suggested, as you stated, the bank can also put the borrower into default essentially. If the project is just a sinking ship, if it's a money pit, the bank may cut its losses and put the loan into default. So yes.
I thought I saw another hand up in the back. Okay. Well, if not, we are at the lunch hour. So please join me in thanking Mark, Amanda, Greg, Daniel, and Janet for your papers, for your comments, and thanks to all of you for your questions. Congratulations for an interesting session.